This is the Amp Hour Podcast, recorded December 8th, 2014, episode 227, Xtreme, Xtraplanetary, Xenonosocomiophobia.
Welcome to the Amp Hour. I'm Dave Jones from the EEV blog.
And I'm Chris Gamble of Contextual Electronics.
Whose life sounds as hectic as mine at the moment.
I know, right? Yeah.
We both just agreed a couple of seconds ago, we'll keep this to an hour. Keep this to an hour.
Yeah, we have to. Oh, my goodness.
We've got shit to do. We've got a life.
Too much life going on. What's going on with you?
Oh, me. I got to go to solicitors after this. I'm getting my EEV blog bunker and, yep.
Well, that's good. We talked about it on the show in the past, so you did get it. That's great. So I saw
got it.
There's a video, or what is going on with that?
I just shot a video when the agent let me in there, and for 5 minutes, I just shot a 10-second video or something. It literally is my shortest video ever, I think.
Whoa.
So, and I didn't even say anything. I just turned the camera on and panned around.
Nice.
And there it is.
Yeah. So that's great, man.
Anyway.
So what's the plan for that again? Just remind me of what the plan is.
I don't know. I don't know. I just liked it and I wanted it, and it's a weird, funny investment-y type thing arrangement I'm doing with it. I won't try and explain.
Right.
Anyway, so as far as I'm concerned, it's almost free to me. So
yeah, right. Well, no, I meant more like on the so there's a possibility though that you might have machining equipment in there. You might be able to get like a milling
that's the
machine
thing.
or something. I don't know.
Well, the problem is because I know I could actually rent the thing out for a pretty penny, right? So it's I'm not going to use all of it. It's quite a large storage. Anyway, the plan was like a storage / maybe do some work in there kind of thing. Not sort of all day kind of stuff, but it's got benches, so I was maybe, I can work on some big stuff in there and kind of stuff that's messy that I can't work on here in the office.
Okay, so like the noisy stuff. Yeah, we talked about that.
The big stuff, I can take apart
drill
my Sinclair
press.
C5.
Right.
I can, I can use dual presses. I can use, I probably don't want to grind and chemicals and all that sort of stuff in there because it is, there's no ventilation. Well, there kind of is. Anyway, I have to look into all that, and so it's not something I want to work in, all day, but certainly go down there for an hour or two and, hack around on the Sinclair C5
so
if I get like a big teardown or something.
What's the commute time for that? I mean, what is it walkable?
It's a 3-minute walk.
Oh, perfect. Yeah,
from home lab here. Yeah, so
see,
it's really
that's a big difference too. Yeah. I mean, that's like
no, it's huge. I could get
lab,
some
right. That's like walking from an office to a lab.
Massive place. Oh yeah, I could get some massive, place that actually has ventilation. But I'd have to drive to it, right? I'd have to drive, 15, 20 minutes to get there. Right, so I would never use it.
Well, it's great, man. Congratulations. Yeah. I mean, now it's official. Congratulations. That's great. Oh,
well, it will be. Yeah.
Well, of course,
paperwork.
right. Yeah. If you're talking to a lawyer, and all that other crap, you wouldn't be doing that if it wasn't official.
No, exactly. And so it'll take like a month or so to settle. I guess it may not be done this year, because everyone shuts down because it's coming up on Christmas time. It's the bloody 9th of December.
I know.
Well, it is here.
And that affects everyone, right? I mean, that's interesting. I remember back to the, obviously neither you or I have proper design jobs anymore.
No.
But I remember it's basically you start getting fewer calls from, the FAEs, you start getting fewer calls from salespeople, you start basically, your resources start getting constrained in terms of if you, obviously I had a layout person I was working with, so it's Tony's going on vacation in 2 weeks, so just be sure all your stuff's in. And I mean, it's the same kind of thing as, basically around Chinese New Year.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what date again?
Usually it's mid-February, I believe.
Mid-Feb or something like that. Yep. Yeah. Did I ever tell a story about Altium working on Christmas Day?
I don't think you did. What is that story?
Oh, okay. Yeah, this was Altium back where in the old office, and I'd only been there 6 months or something, I think, and it was Christmas. And we had the trade show. We had the Embedded Systems Conference, I think, coming up, and we wanted to show off this new industrial product I was designing, right? It was like going to be our big flagship, new hardware development platform, It was, you know how we've got the expensive development desktop platform. This was going to be like an industrial version of that. Custom cases and all sorts of, it was a reasonable idea, I guess. Anyway, so I was tasked with designing that puppy, and we had a mechanical engineer as well, and like he was, designing the cases and everything. I was designing, laying out the board, and it was like coming up to Christmas, and I'm going, shit, the Embedded System Conference is like, or whatever show it was, is like in late January, right? And I've just finished designing this board, and I have to I've got to order parts. I've got to order the 8-layer PCBs and get those. We've got to build the damn things up with all the BGA parts and everything, right?
Oof,
and
man,
you have to,
right.
And
so it's not like you're not
not
necessarily hand assembling this either, then, right?
Oh no! These were hand assembled.
Oh yeah, so doing like reflow on by yourself with BGAs?
like the first. Yep. Well, the first one or two I think we did, and then but we needed a whole stand full of these things, right? We needed to make it look like we were ready to go with these things, right? It was kind of like smoke and mirrors.
Perception
right?
is reality, folks.
We got these exactly. We got these ready to go.
Yeah.
And I can probably get a photo off the old Altium archives of the stand with these things, right? And up there, and I'm still working on the design of this thing, and it's Christmas Eve, right? And I'm going, look, if I don't order the parts on Boxing Day, like the 26th, like I was going through the mental timeline of, I had to buy them from DigiKey, we're never going to get them in time, and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And it was so ridiculously tight. So anyway, I'm working all of Christmas Eve and on Christmas Day. And I remember there was nobody there. So I thought, screw going into the office, right? All I'm doing is laying out a board.
Yeah,
right?
You can
so
work
I do
at
it
home.
from home.
Yep.
So I'm doing the remote connection thing, And then so I thought, I better order the bloody parts, right, as well. Otherwise I'm going to be screwed, I needed all sorts of, mounting things to mount them on the stands and all sorts of stuff, not only the electronic components. And then I didn't have my corporate credit card. It was back in the office in my desk, I had a company credit card, so I couldn't order the damn parts. So I jump online, and the only person left in the office on Christmas Day was the CEO, Nick Martin, right? Who, the guy was like a workaholic, right? He would, and he'd work, he would cut code at 2 a.m. in the morning, right?
Nice, yeah.
And so I had to get him to go to my desk drawer to get my credit card and tell me the number and everything so that I could bloody order the parts online. And it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So but that's what Christmas and the New Year's Eve break, it does to you. It's not like a regular working period.
Yeah.
And we had to find various people to do things, to do molds finish off the molds for the cases and make this and make that and assemble our boards and get our bare boards made. And, it was, it was a nightmare. And every day counted, if you didn't order the stuff today, you were screwed.
Right. Well, nothing's worse.
It's a wonder, and we,
Well, I was gonna say nothing's worse than than when you kind of finally, a lot of people. Obviously I'm still a cheapskate at heart, but once you get to that point of being okay, overnight shipping, I'm cool with this. $80, $100, $150, $200 for shipping alone. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Whatever, it's a business expense.
No, that's nothing.
It's no big deal. But the point when your heart really sinks is when you're fine paying it, but then you're like. Oh crap! Is that going to be fast enough? Right?
I know.
That is when it's really bad.
We were paying $3,000 or something to get an 8-layer board turned in 24 hours, right? And then FedEx, right?
Yeah.
It was 3 or 4. It was for one board.
For one board, really?
It was I think they might have manufactured a second because they don't have time to, to make an 8-layer board in 24 hours is practically,
Yep.
it's beyond the limits of human capability, almost.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have everything perfect materially,
everything.
right? And
exactly.
You have to have the labor on staff. You have to have everybody there.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have everything going perfectly.
Yep.
And that
and all the lines and every aspect of every line dedicated to you and available, bang, 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 so they can take it to the next step and the next, and you don't have to wait.
Right.
And and it costs a lot of money.
But I know we had Colin on last week, and we've obviously had, you and I have been in manufacturing in the past. All I can think of is like, man, I don't miss it. I mean, I know I should feel bad saying that, but like some days I'm just like, oh God, that is like it's nice to look back at it, right? You're like, oh we did it. We got it done together. Yeah, exactly. It's no, I don't miss that feeling that, like 9 p.m. you're like at work, like trying the test again. Oh God, I hope it works this time. I don't miss that. And I kind of keep thinking about that whenever there's like these like romanticized manifestos about manufacturing, and I'm just like, And as we've talked about, getting the staff working in the hotel room, the night before the conference. I've probably got a photo of that, one of the outing, the beds, we've got the double beds in the room just filled with all the, all the gear and stuff, and there's soldering irons, and we realized, we had to go down to Fry's, to buy a Heiko 936, and we had to solder up we got the flat flex cable pin out back to front or something like that, and we had to solder swap
these
lines,
flat flex, swap all the pins, and we and we were doing this like hours before the trade show was opening, and it's like the trade show's opening at 10 and it's 8 a.m. and we're still soldering these cables. Let's hope they work,
Well, it's interesting talking. I mean, I think we've talked about it in the past, but like, I think trade shows have changed as well. Maybe not trade show. I'm not sure, but like, I think we talked about in the past about how the educational stuff has changed, and at trade shows and stuff like that. But I'm going to be like I'm going to be like exhibiting at a trade show in January. And like it seems like super chill. Like I don't know.
What one? Exhibiting what?
Parts.io. Parts.io will be on display at DesignCon. Yep. So I'll be showing that.
So you'll
up.
be standing there in a pair of hot pants.
I'll be that guy. Yeah, that is my future, Dave.
Cool. You can just walk past the stand and like heckle him.
Exactly. You could just scoff at me and just flip me off and keep walking. Yeah.
Yeah. And there will be a prize for the best photo of Chris Scammell just looking like absolute shit.
Looking forlorn and fat and stupid.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. I will personally put up a prize for the best photo.
One scope goes to the saddest looking picture of Chris. But I mean, it's totally different these days. I feel like, I mean, maybe not. I don't know. Like that was ESC, but even like ESC doesn't feel like that urgent. You know what I mean? Like it's not like people are demoing this stuff anymore, because really your demo is when you decide to launch to the internet. It's a different thing. It's not launch at convention.
Yeah, that wasn't the only outlet. Whereas back before the internet, kiddies. That was the only outlet.
Right.
Right. Yeah,
and it had to work because you had a week. You had a week out of a year to demo. Otherwise,
right. And Whereas now, you just do it online.
Right.
But I guess, but still, you see it with the Consumer Electronics Show, which is coming up.
That is
probably within a month, right? Isn't that the first week of January?
Usually it's
second week.
It usually coincides with the adult entertainment convention in Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah, it's like they're right up against one another, but it's
right. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. Like I always look at that stuff, and it's it's interesting because mostly it's interesting because of the scale of it, right? I mean, that's the main thing. Right. It's the fervor over this, but like all the stuff that's there, like it's like, oh well, we're a consumer electronics company, and we're a sensor that's connected to your phone, and you go to the next stand, and it's we're a sensor that's connected to your phone, and it's like,
well, the difference is right between the CES, the word consumer is the part that makes a difference.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, when Canon and Nikon released their new cameras at the CES, right? It's front page news to nerds right around the world. Oh, what new camera is coming out, right?
Right. Right.
Whereas Altium release a thing at the embedded system comps, and no one gives a shit. Like two people walk up the stand. Oh, you got something new, have you? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah.
Nobody gives a toss.
Right. No,
right?
that strikes me often as like even just online. Like you look at like just the scale difference of like EV blog, right? Obviously, you know a lot about that. But like you're a very popular video blog about electronics, right? But then if you search the term electronics, right, it's such a broad term where it captures people that are interested in gadgets and all the other, computer security and software and everything around it as well. It's like, the actual people working on hardware, people working on electronics and that are interested in the stuff that composes a lot of these consumer devices is such a smaller subsection of the overall. And it's so I mean, there's a much bigger group, especially that's interested in the CES stuff. There's all those gadget blogs that are out there. It's insane,
Yep.
And there's some interesting technology, but
yes, I am currently ranked like 7,500 in the world. Yes, with a bullet.
For
I think I've dropped down.
For electronics?
No, for video bloggers, like
wow.
channels.
Very
right?
cool.
I'm like 7,000. Well, I don't know. It was 5,000. Something happened. I'm dropping down.
Oh well,
So yeah,
publish more videos, man.
Yeah. Right. That's all I got to do.
Yeah.
Like
Alan, yeah, he's been doing great videos. So Alan Yates, who's been on the show before, and we will link him in. He did this. I don't think it was last year. I think it was 2 years ago. What was the last time he did this?
Was it? Yeah, it would have been 2 years ago because I think he was too busy at Valve.
Yeah.
Last year. Anyway, he's back. Yes, he's doing the advent of circuits. So he's doing a circuit and a video to go with it every day.
Yeah.
For December, and holy crap, if you know how much work's involved in actually doing that, then my hat's off to it.
Right, and obviously, I mean, he's always done great videos in the first place, but he's been doing it's a lot of usually there, and he talks about it in this first video that we link in and linked on the subreddit. But basically, they're more fundamental circuits, but like it's stuff that I remember looking at the first Advent stuff. It's like he's like, oh, this is a fundamental circuit, and he's doing like higher frequency, doing like RF style stuff with just like single transistor. But it's like if you're not into that world of doing single transistor RF stuff, it's all Greek to me. It's great though. So highly recommend it.
Cool.
Like he did. So far he's done RF circuits, LED bar graph, toroidal stuff. What was this one? Variable something. Yeah,
there's always a huge mix in there.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's hard to keep up. Like, because sometimes they're 10, 15-minute videos, and he's doing one every day. So it's like
putting Dave to shame here.
I haven't had time to watch them all.
Yeah.
And see, it's hard for me to do. People go, oh, why don't I do videos like that? Well, it's everyone's got their own style. It's not easy for me to just copy his style, for example, or copy someone else's style. And,
right.
And some people say, well, why don't some other bloggers do videos like mine, and vice versa. It's like, well, everyone has their own style, that's suited to, that sort of shorter format kind of thing.
Yeah. There's another one from another Alan Wolke was doing one a while back. He's been doing a back to basics series as well. And he did one on biasing, kind of those simpler like one transistor type circuits. But if you don't get the biasing right on the BJTs, you're not going to have a very good circuit. So he did a great video about that recently as well. So highly recommend that. And there's so much good stuff out there. But often the big problem with a lot of this stuff, it's like you don't know what you really need until you're presented with the problem. It's like, oh, well, this circuit isn't working. When you get to that problem where it's like, it's broken. You ever type that into Google? It's like problem, broken, fix.
Right.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, as from a content producer's point of view, it doesn't matter what video, what video you do, what subject it is.
Yeah.
It will be the subject somebody doesn't want. It'll be oh, that's great, but why didn't you do one on this?
Right,
It's like,
right.
Goodness,
Yep.
So and then you'll go do one on that for that person, and then somebody else will come along and go, well, that's great, but why didn't you do one on this?
Yep. Yep.
Oh, shoot me
I guess as long as we're on the subject of other people that have been on the show that have great video blogs, Ben Krasnow's obviously been keeping up with stuff. He did a couple answering questions a while back. So Ben's he's a former Valve guy.
Those.
Now
I just
Google.
realized that he's former Valve. I didn't know he had left Valve.
Yeah, he didn't really announce it until that point. So he's now at Google X,
right? Okay.
Doing whatever.
Google X secret stuff.
Yeah,
you can't
secret
talk about.
stuff. Yeah. Right. So that's another good one.
And I think he said he works on the team that evaluates stuff or something along those lines.
Yeah, they have like the rapid prototyping.
That's all he could say.
Team as well.
So they evaluate ideas or something like that.
So speaking of rapid prototyping, I'm headed out to California tomorrow, and then on Thursday we're gonna have another one of those events where like a hardware meetup and stuff like that. So Sean Meehan, who's been on the show before, he was the one from Planet Labs, and we talked about how basically their experiments were on the Antares rocket, and then that blew up.
Right.
And then basically they got on the SpaceX rocket 9 days later. He's going to be giving a talk about how to build and prototype and build hardware in 9 days. And
cool.
I'm super pumped to hear him talk about that. So if anyone's in the Bay Area, I'll post a link for that talk. It should, and I'm going to try and get it on video too, because I think it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so he'll be there. And another person talking from Tessel, which is the JavaScript-based. I think we had actually disparaged it at one point, but much like many other things, I've come around to it. Basically, JavaScript running on a micro. Basically, you can run JavaScript on a micro to control things.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, as a gateway drug into
Yep.
electronics for software people. So, how they do all that.
Are you giving a talk?
No, what do I have to talk about these days? Come on,
so
man.
there's no heckling. Well, didn't you give a talk last time or something?
Yeah, I've talked before about KiCad and Parts.io and a couple other things. So, but I'm out of things to say, Dave.
Right.
Until you and I do our roadshow eventually, of course.
Right, the Amp Hour Roadshow.
Oh, that'll be a shit show. The Amp Hour shit show.
I don't know. A couple of people might tune in.
Yeah, maybe.
Who cares? It's a junket.
Yeah, the junket. Go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, so that's coming up.
Yeah, I
Thursday.
can pay myself to do it. Woohoo!
Oh yeah.
Yes, I can.
What do you mean?
Pay myself, and it was a joke.
Oh,
I work for myself.
Oh, right.
Nobody's paying me to do it.
Right.
You know?
I work for myself. My boss is an a-hole kind of thing.
Yep, that kind of thing. Yep. Oh, goodness.
Well, speaking of space...
Yeah, junkets take... Sorry, I'm just saying, junkets take on a different meaning when you work for yourself. It's not a... it's not that junket. It's not the same feel anymore.
Oh, yeah, it's not wasting someone else's money. It's you.
Yeah, exactly.
It's your money. It's your money, your time. It's time you could be spending somewhere else. Yeah.
That's right.
That's working for yourself in general, right? There's always something you could be doing. I think that's one of the toughest. I mean, obviously, I don't just work for myself anymore. I was doing that for a little while, but one of the toughest things about that is like, do you go and develop the next circuit and things that are like longer term, right? This is something a lot of engineers have to deal with as well. Is like, oftentimes as an R&D engineer, I was doing like, I got to work and try newer longer term things, right? You were doing that at Altium and other places as well, right? You get to try things that probably won't work. When you're working for yourself or when you're kind of a little bit more closer to manufacturing, you're stuck in that, does it make money today kind of thing? And that, does it make money or does it preserve money that's already coming in? And that's a much different situation you have to deal with. So not necessarily fun, but it's just, that's just the reality of working for a big company. That's, like, I think the biggest thing about that is like, say you were like a NASA scientist, right? It's like, okay, I'm being paid by the goodwill of, taxpayers and everybody else, like basically with the idea that eventually this will get sent into space and this is important research, or research as general, right? That's kind of the main thing.
Right, of course.
Basically, the money is coming from some kind of foundation, basically saying you're working on things that do not have some direct revenue stream, but it's still important, right? If you don't have that, then there's no revenue stream in the future. Whereas someone who's writing an app for tomorrow or working on a manufacturing test stand for tomorrow, that's very closely tied to, that's very close to the money. Or if you're a salesperson, even taking it even further, if you're a salesperson, you're very, very close to the money, and it's tied to that revenue stuff. So that's just...
well, that's the thing with me and my blogs. I mean, I can't just go work on... Well, I can, but but let's just say, like, I can't just go work on something that interests me that has no tangible benefit to the blog, because that's just wasting time. That's just dicking around,
right?
Wasting time on.
Well, and even when you are doing interesting things, right? You're doing interesting things like your mud run. Even then, you're still thinking about, how can I...
Exactly. How can I make it? How can I get value out of this?
Yeah, exactly.
By doing that. So I shoot a video. I'll upload. It's content. It's extra. Even if it goes on my secondary channel.
Right.
I'm thinking. If I find something in the dumpster, I'm just. I might. Like if I've got a. I did a dumpster dive. Actually, just shot it now. I'm going to put it on my main channel. But even if I do that and I spend a couple of hours, cleaning up something I got out of the dumpster, I'm going to shoot a video on it.
Right.
Because otherwise, I've just wasted that time just dicking around.
Right.
And it's hard when your hobby is your business. That makes it like extra hard and confusing.
Yep, definitely.
there's no line there. Whereas before the blog, right, I can go, oh yeah, that's hobby stuff. I can just piss away as much time as free time as I've got.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. Sort of it changes things. So that is important, and I think that's important for people to realize as they get into the if they're interested in doing video blogs and similar stuff. It just changes the relationship with stuff. I think anything like that, eventually becomes a job. So there's the good and the bad, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I still wouldn't give it up.
Yeah, of course. So what was the result? So I saw your mud run, and you dragged this poor scope through the mud. What was the ultimate result of the autopsy? Did it live?
It lived. Yeah,
it
was
really?
fine. It was like it had never gone through.
Okay, so I was watching your video, and you talked about the strap, and you talked about the foam floaty thing, and people should watch this, obviously.
Yeah.
Were you serious about that? Because it looked like it was duct taped foam on there.
Dude, you think I was serious?
I thought, you said it kind of deadpan, but I figured you were full of crap.
Well,
but
I always figure, my style.
Yeah, but,
of course I'm full of crap.
But no, I mean, it didn't even sound like you were kidding a little bit. So that's what I meant. Like, so I guess you fooled me.
That's the whole point of doing it. It's like the April Fool's jokes. Why at the end of it go, ha, April Fools? Right, It's stupid. Right? If you're gonna sell a joke, sell it.
I guess so. I trusted you, man. I trusted you.
And that's what makes it so freaking hilarious. I
tricked you. You trusted me.
That's what gets me through the day. Little things like that get me through the day.
Let's talk about formulas that may or may not be real now.
Exactly. I mean, I'm always throwing in little things like that,
Sure.
And if somebody bites, somebody goes, oh, but that can't be true. I just start cacking myself and go, yes, got him.
Yeah.
Oh, and that just makes my day. Otherwise
so that's your new hobby,
kill myself.
Huh?
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an official flotation pack for Xtreme oscilloscope.
I don't know.
And it's made out of dodgy foam and duct tape.
If we want to start talking about all the silly things military electronics do, we could talk about that. But I recall not so fondly a sales guy telling me about a connector that cost $900 at an old place I used to work. We used to work on military and like firefighter electronics and stuff like that.
That's nothing.
I know.
That's nothing. I've worked on products where there's $2,000 a connector.
Right, and I mean, like, I get it. I get low volumes. I get like testing and certification and everything else like that. But I'm just saying, like, that's crazy. I mean, right? I mean, like that's...
Well, it's not. It's what it costs. It's what it costs.
Yeah.
When you have to manufacture 100 of these connectors, right? And you have to pay
Right.
some
And you have
professional
weird
big company, you know, I'm
coatings
talking
and-
Molex,
yeah,
you know,
right.
and they have to go through the full qualification procedures for all those. Yeah, they're going to charge you a couple of grand per connector or a couple of $100 per connector. Damn right they are.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, I get the economics of it, but it's just like when you say it like that, instead of saying like, well, it was 50 grand of NRE and then like $10 a connector.
Right.
You know, like it's just how
right.
you're doing your accounting, really. So that's the difference.
Right, okay.
But
right. Yeah.
yeah.
Fair enough. Anyway, yes, the scope survived, and it looks like it never had water in it to begin with, or it did. Like, it's got some pre-rust in it, right? It's got rust from before I took it through the mud run.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, apart from that, it looks like no water got into it. Yet you look on the video, and the damn thing
Yeah, it was
is
under,
submerged
yeah.
on my back under the water.
Yeah.
There must have been water in there, and I thought like the mud would have caked everything.
Yeah.
Right?
You know, so that brings up an interesting conversation about. So did you used to do on your products? Did you ever do like moisture testing and temperature testing and stuff like that?
Oh yeah.
So what?
I had tons of experience.
Yeah.
doing
So
that.
what was? Oh yeah. I guess the stuff that was underwater, huh? Okay. Excluding the stuff that was like designed to be underwater. What about like just general design? What kind of testing did you have to do for that?
Oh, you'd put them in a humidity chamber, you know, like actually cycle test them at humidity and all that sort of jazz.
Yeah.
And,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So like extended
Absolutely.
life testing stuff
This
like
is
that.
way back in, you know, even back in 1994 when we were manufacturing flat screens for KeyCorp, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'd put them in huge thermal chambers. We'd have a couple hundred of these flat screen monitors in these huge, big thermal and humidity chambers, and
Yeah.
we'd be, you know, soak testing them.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've had to do that as well. I mean, we did that at Keithley and ABB and everywhere else too. The one that was interesting to me was actually at the military place I worked. They actually did like submerged testing where they had, you know, the big O-rings, and then internal to the product they had the O-rings, and they actually submerged it to a certain depth, and then basically,
Yep.
you know, did like, I don't know how they measured the water seepage and stuff like that.
Yep.
But yeah, that's interesting stuff, I think, because I think the actual like waterproof testing is different, but like the humidity testing, the temperature testing, that's something that I never really was exposed to until I got out of school. You know, I knew the effects of temperature and I knew the effects of humidity, but I didn't realize that they actually tested that stuff, because so much of that it's not actually empirical. Obviously, it is measured, but it's, you know, it's still based upon, you know, statistics and how many units you actually, like you mentioned, there's a whole set of units that are in there, stuff like that, and that. That actually does end up affecting things. So,
Oh yeah, like and it'll have effect on the manufacturing of your boards. You know, if there's a certain flux residue left on your board, then that could interact with the moisture if it's a high humidity environment, right? And it'll change from batch to batch. So you might test these during your qualification, and right, everything's fine.
Yep.
Everything's hunky-dory, and then you go manufacture the things, and you know, every second batch would fail. Well, because that one was contaminated, so the moisture, or
exactly.
you know, or they're at a high dust environment, and then you mix dust with moisture, and hey, you know,
now you have mud.
right? Yeah. You know, so there's
I think a lot of that stuff too. Like later on,
huge deal.
Some of the boards I worked on ended up doing like conformal coating and stuff like that too. Basically, just saying, well,
yeah, we're done conformal coating. That's horrible stuff.
It is. Yeah, people don't know what that is. Basically, it's like it's like a lightweight epoxy. Basically, you spray the whole board. You mask off parts that aren't allowed to be sprayed down. But then the idea being that you basically seal in every connection that you can by covering it in a very light layer of plastic, effectively. And that kind of keeps out the moisture from soaking in. That keeps out dirt from soaking in. Yep. And that
or often it can keep the moisture in because you can you know, heat it up, cool it down, and the moisture stays in there if you don't apply your conformal coating correctly.
Oh, interesting.
There's an art to applying conformal coating.
Yeah, but that does really matter. And actually, I think the thing that ends up affecting engineers the most in that case is actually rework, because then you're like, is this board conformally coated?
Reworking.
And then you got to melt away that shit, and it's terrible.
Have you ever tried to probe through a conformal coated board? You know,
no, jeez.
You know, he's stabbing it with a sharp probe. Pierce through, you bastard! And you can't get your scope probe on these pins because they're
right.
you just scrape off the bloody conformal coating. And,
that sucks.
And then you're never sure if there's actually no signal there or whether or not you're just not making contact. Even when you scrape it off, there's still, it's
yeah.
Oh, it's horrid. Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes you got to do that. I mean, obviously, I never did auto stuff, but the auto guys have to deal with tons of that kind of, that crazy. They buy the crazy temperature parts and stuff like that.
Yep.
I was doing mostly industrial, where they had to, it could experience those elevated temperatures and humidities and stuff like that. Because I mean, you think about it, you go to a Shenzhen and you design test equipment for a Shenzhen, and then they're sitting in this factory during monsoon season, and it's 90 degrees Fahrenheit and 90% humidity, and it's like, your thing might be out of spec. I mean, your cow might not do as well as you thought you did unless you actually planned for it. So it's kind of crazy.
That reminds me of the story I was talking about with the CEO of the alarm company, the Australian alarm company, the other month. Hess. They were right. I was talking to him about and I was talking to their head designer there, right?
Uh-huh.
I think I mentioned this on my text blog.
Okay.
Anyway, they, like I said, look, why don't you fit these MOVs, right? Because the board had these footprints, the alarm inputs, and they had these MOVs which weren't fitted. And I said, why don't you fit these MOVs?
For protection,
and they
you're
said,
saying?
Oh, no.
Like MOVs for protection?
Yeah. And he said, oh, no, that's only for the Southeast Asia market. And I go, why?
Oh, I know the answer.
Said,
Wait, is it because their power grid is so unreliable they have spikes on it?
No.
Okay.
Kind of related. No. Thunderstorms, monsoons.
Oh, really?
All that
Just
sort of stuff.
okay. That
they
was my second guess.
Really severe lightning storms in those regions, right?
So
and
they save.
here, for the Australian market or the US market, right, we just have little pissant thunderstorms, right? We don't, our regular input protection is enough to handle that. So we don't need to spend money fitting the extra MOVs for those markets.
Right. Why waste the money,
so
right?
Only for those, only for those Asian markets where they have those massive, and they get them every day, 4 o'clock every day, bang, thunderstorm, bang, 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 And, so they have to fit the extra MOVs for those markets. So, and they've never had to conformally coat boards, but, moisture is more of an issue in those sort of markets and things like that.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you think any designers were like, oh, well, maybe some crazy person will drag this through a mud pit at some point?
And have it survive. I was amazed.
I know, that is amazing.
Yeah.
So you're gonna sell that one? You're gonna sell that particular unit?
Some people have asked, well, who's going to buy it,
Probably EEV blog fans and no one else. I wouldn't buy that on eBay or something.
Probably, exactly. It's dodgy as. And it's faulty. It's basically faulty because it had a fault before I took it through.
Yeah.
The Canyon, because there's always people complaining, oh, why did you take a perfectly good scope through? You ruined it. I can't afford. I worked all my life and I can't afford to scope that good, and you just go and ruin mine. That's how they talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. They sound exactly like that.
Yeah.
It's like, just shut up, all right? Even if it was working, bloody hell.
I was thinking about it. So I got a bunch of my test equipment from fixing it, and I was thinking about that today, and it really wasn't easy. I mean, and a lot of people talk about it, but man, that is a hard-won way of doing test equipment, right? I mean, you learn a bunch about it, but... Yeah. There's no guarantee it's going to work. There's no guarantee it's going to, keep its cow and stuff like that. It's like buying, it's like being like, oh, I bought a racehorse. They cut one of the legs off the horse, though. It's like, yeah, it could run faster than the other horses or as fast. But it's probably going to have some issues,
and that's not helped by, bloggers who, publish these videos or text articles in the forum or whatever, right? Hey, I bought this scope and I repaired it, it was real easy and, well, that's great because you usually only hear the stories are from the people who have fixed them. Like, you don't hear from the people who, paid, who, gambled and spent, I'm going to buy this scope for $500 on eBay and see if I can fix it, and then don't. And then they, nobody's going to admit they wasted $500, for a scope and they couldn't fix it, right? Because it had some unobtainium bloody Tektronix part or something that was blowing.
Oh, there's nothing worse than, like, it's not even the unobtainium, it's the unknowtanium, right? Where you don't know what the actual part number is because it's an internal part number.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yep.
That's the worst. And especially when it's like,
yep.
It's like these old school designs and old school schematics where it's like, this part is part number 4.
Right.
Oh, okay. This part over here is part 4A. Shit.
The Tektronix scope has that, this TDS 220. When I did the teardown, I thought, can I find data on this part? No.
Yeah.
Can't find shit.
No.
It's got some custom part number. It's manufactured by National Semiconductor. I think something exists out there, maybe a block diagram for it or something, but, it's like, no.
Yeah, the best you're going to get is like, this is based off this part, and then you go and find that part and try and see if you can, shoehorn that in there. But, yeah, that's tough.
Yeah. So we're saying don't try and fix your own.
No, I mean, like, that's the thing. Like, I think a lot of it's
romanticized
romanticized because it is. I mean, like, it's good. Like, it's a good way to learn, but, like, it's not the good way to start learning, right? So, like, Jim Williams talks about his farm of 86 oscilloscopes or what he had. He basically, that was his hobby. And that is a really, and so Kent Lundberg, who's been on the show as well, he talks about fixing, he was, a prodigy of Jim and stuff like that and stuff like, but it is a great way to learn, but I think the key point is persistence, right? I mean, like, that's ultimately what it comes down to. Is like, you have to, if you want a piece of test equipment, go buy a piece of test equipment. If you want a project, go buy a $50 scope to fix up. I mean, like, that's the difference, I think.
Exactly. And then be prepared to spend serious time at it. And that's why, people say, oh, why don't I do that? I haven't got a whole week to devote to tracing down, to figuring out how this scope work, figuring out how this circuit works and tracing everything out on the board. And it's like, I wish I did.
Yeah.
And then I'm not going to have the part, so then I've got to go order the part on that hunch, right? Oh, is it that? Oh, no, okay, I've wasted another week waiting for that part.
Well, and I think that's the thing, like, is like, that is the normal timeline, right? I mean, like, these are projects that persist for months at a time, right? I mean, like,
months.
That's what people, and if people are listening and thinking, yeah, that still sounds like me, like, it's a month's kind of thing. You're going to be working at it, and if it's not months, it's not, it could be because you're a brilliant troubleshooter, but it's probably because you got lucky and they had dried out caps, right? And like,
that's right,
and power to you. But like, when you find that troll of a scope that has one faulty transistor that happens to just have a slightly different beta than it should, and that's the most sensitive circuit, you're screwed. I mean, like, come on, like, that's just a hard thing to find. You're going to learn a shitload when you go through that, and that's good.
Totally.
But good luck with all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Get out your get out your curve tracers, folks. I mean, like, yeah, it's gonna be tough,
Yeah.
But yeah, you'll learn a bunch. Yeah.
Yep. And that's why I'm, I thank my lucky stars when that I was troubleshooting the Back to the Future time circuit the other day.
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I had this 1 in 1,000 shot of this pin being a dry joint that I actually reworked this chip. And then, so the odds of actually getting the exact sequence of failures that I got, and then the other channels looking like exactly the same failure mode as what was caused by this rework of this actual clock pin being open and blah, blah, blah. There was a whole... it led me down this garden path, and you couldn't have scripted that.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
It was just so lucky to get that. Otherwise, it would have been a dumbass repair, right? Simple, blow and chip. Yeah, the smoke escaped. I replace it. Everything works. And, and it's a boring-ass video.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
I
mean, that's the downside of troubleshooting. Everybody wants, like, the stuff that looks exciting.
Everyone wants the Agatha Christie, mystery thriller, right?
My wife watches those terrible crime drama shows, and I walk in and I'm like,
oh yeah, the NCIS.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, it's always the second person. So they show the person they think it is,
Right.
and then they show the second person
Right.
they think it is, and then they find the third person, and
Yeah.
the third person, so they go and investigate a bunch, and it turns out it's the second person.
Right, it's a formula.
It's the formula, yeah.
It never
I'm
fails.
like, I just walk in, I'm like, it's the second person, and then she's like, yeah, you were right. Oh. And that's why I don't watch those
goodness.
stupid shows. Yeah.
Yep. So it's pointless, folks. Either you're going to luck out, or you're going to get lucky.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean,
And
like,
it's going to be easy as
anything.
anything.
Troubleshooting in general is like that. I mean, like, sometimes you're gonna chase a ghost for 2 months, and sometimes you're gonna find it within a week or a day or an hour. And you're not going to remember the week or the day or the hour, right? You're going to remember the ghost, because when you finally find what it actually is, that's the good story. That's the one that's memorable.
Exactly.
If you find it in an hour, it's not troubleshooting. It's just fixing something. It's just like, oh,
That's it.
Oh, it was this. Yeah.
That fuse looks blowing. Oh, I'll replace that. Hey.
These caps look kind of dry. This diode looks kind of dark. Yeah. Okay. Well,
There's no 5-volt rail here. Oh, I think it might be the 7805 regulator block.
this is brilliant. Yeah.
Funny that,
Right.
yeah.
But those
Aren't
are the
I
good
a genius,
things. Cherish those, because when you find the stinkers, you're not going to be that happy. So speaking of things they're hoping to not troubleshoot, how about this friggin' Orion launch, huh? I wanted to get to this. That's the best segue I could get to.
I sat up watching, and I had to go to bed, and it was like, oh, God. This was the first time it was scrubbed, right? And I sat there, and it's like 1 a.m. in the morning. I go, no, I got to go to bed.
Yeah.
And it turns out, it was scrubbed. And then the next night, I watched it live, and they got it the first go, I think.
Yeah.
I think it was.
It was super early
anyway.
here, so I actually didn't catch it. I think it was like 6 in the morning here.
But then I had to go to bed. Like, I couldn't stay there for the whole 4 hours to watch it, actually come back. So I saw the launch.
Oh,
but I
right.
didn't see anything past that,
And
because it was going out doing a loop. And
we will post both the launch video and the landing video, and they're both spectacular. Like usual, space and shit. It's
so that's pretty exciting.
it's pretty great.
And it's basically the furthest a human capsule, even though there are no humans in there, has been since Apollo 17.
Really?
Right.
So
Yeah.
did you know this was coming? Because I didn't understand why I hadn't heard anything about this. I'm sure it was there, and I just didn't notice it.
Because the whole Orion project and the whole NASA, Mars plan and everything else was such a balls up. And
this is what happened when they canceled the shuttle, right? They mentioned that. Yeah, it was when Bush was in office, and they mentioned this kind of thing.
Bush called for it. He said, "Yeah, let's go to space and let's get the budget." So Congress came back. They did a plan. NASA came back, right? They had this plan, right?
Okay.
I think it was called the 30-day plan or something, right? So they got this plan together in 30 days.
Okay.
I'm sure I've deja vu. We've talking about.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. I mean, I think we were actually
anyway,
a show at that point, and I think
Yeah, it was Mars or something. Anyway, they came back with this plan, and they gave it to Congress, and it's going to cost $500 trillion billion gazillion dollars or something, right? And because every department of NASA, every person said, "Oh, we want our idea to be included." So NASA bent over backwards, so that it was such a convoluted scheme for going to Mars that it just turned out to be way too expensive and complicated, and it just all went downhill from there. And Congress didn't approve it, so they approved some half-assed thing, and it's a big balls up.
Right. Yep,
it's a big mess. So that's why you haven't heard much about it. There's not much excitement.
Okay.
But it has gone on, and they are developing the Orion capsule. Of course, that's just the capsule part. Orion is the capsule, and then they've got the new heavy lift rockets that'll make the Saturn V look like a party popper.
Right.
Right.
And that's the big thing, because that's what's necessary to get stuff
that's
to
another
Mars,
big
right?
thing.
I mean, that's the big thing.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting.
So,
I mean,
anyway.
I think all of this is basically like, I mean, I was super excited, just like anything space these days. I'm excited about. I mean, obviously we talked a lot about the privatized space stuff. I mean, I mentioned, Sean's been on the show, and we've talked about Elon Musk and SpaceX, somebody else, a bunch. Who cares how we get there? I don't care how we get. Honestly, I don't give a shit. I just want space, more space, and I think that's good for the industry too. I mean, like
I do. But I give a shit.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I just, I want the best, most efficient plan to get us to Mars.
Wait a second, though. Which is which?
What?
Well, which in your opinion?
The best or the most efficient?
Is it the privatized or is it the nationalized? Is it the Musk or is it the NASA? Or?
Where the money... It's not necessarily where the money comes from. It's basically there's two schools of thought. There's Mars Direct, which let's just do it, Apollo line. Yeah. Let's just set 10, do it before the decade is out.
Rockets behind you, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and just get there. We can get people there. And I'm... I'm a big supporter of both camps. I'm kind of torn. Anyway, there's Mars Direct, and then there's the Buzz Aldrin plan, which is, let's slowly build it up. Let's go back to the moon first, and let's use that as a base, and then let's go to Mars, but let's not land on Mars. Let's land on Phobos and use Phobos as a staging point for then actually landing on Mars.
Interesting.
And I've read Aldrin's book on this, and he's got some awesome ideas, and you think, this guy's really thought about it. And look,
I'll have to read that.
Yeah, the more I read, the more I confuse. Yeah, Aldrin's book. I'll have to get the link and link it in.
Yeah.
Yep. And there's a book on the Mars Direct one by Robert Zubrin.
Okay.
I think is his name. So he's the big proponent of... Anyway, both are being investigated, and there's, money being spent on both.
Well, yeah, we talked earlier about the research stuff. It's like...
Yeah.
There's no right answer, folks. Sorry.
No.
It's like, this is like pure research because it's like, well, no one's been to Mars yet. There's nothing to base this on, It's, yeah.
But then again, no, like, I'm just a fan of, let's, for NASA to get, 3% of your GDP or something.
Well, thanks, Dave. You're very generous with our GDP.
I do, thank you. Well, it's currently 0.5%, right? It's currently 0.5%.
I'm totally in on it, too.
If they doubled it to 1%, they could do everything. Right?
I think part of the problem is that gets so political so quickly. It's just that's always the problem.
It does, and then as we saw with the plan that they put together, it can get pissed away on because every department in NASA has their own dream idea of how to do it.
Yeah.
Right? And then if there's nobody in charge saying we're going to do it this way and that's it.
Yeah.
Then money just tends to get pissed away. So
right.
I'm a big supporter of also going back to the moon as well. I think why aren't we? Why don't we have an outpost? Why, we could do some cool science on the moon.
Yeah, definitely.
We could have huge radio telescopes on the far side of the moon. Why aren't we doing that? Holy shit, it's only 4 days away.
Right. Yeah. I think just in general,
whereas Mars is 6 to 9 months each way.
I mean, you think about just the investment side of things too, right? I'm big on investing. I mean, I think like even when you say like pissed away stuff like that, I think as long as there's reviews on programs and stuff like that, like scientists want to do good work. It's not like this is like it's like if you have good purchasing, I think honestly it comes down to the purchasing side of things because it's like where the money could
everything comes down to purchasing.
I think that it could. I think that's the biggest area for potential waste and stuff like that because like an engineer wants to build stuff. And, basically someone has to eventually actually, go and make that stuff. Eventually the money gets passed down, and that's where the biggest opportunity for fraud and stuff like that happens, where they say it's going to cost $1 million and then nothing gets delivered.
Yep.
So that's ultimately where the kind of the rubber hits the road.
And each hammer costs $10,000.
Right, exactly.
For a hammer, right? Yeah.
And there's a lot of overhead, but I think ultimately, that, if it's all in the guise of research, like that, there's always side benefits. There's always this messy side of research that I don't know. There's no logic to it, but it's gonna be good on the whole, I think. So,
do you think that if we sent humans back to Mars, that it would be a big deal? Like, as in, would the public go, would the whole world stop and watch again, or do you think everyone would go, oh yeah, whatever?
No, I think
I don't care. I'm just going back.
Come on, man. That's like
a smartphone.
I think if nothing else, because other people would think it's a big deal.
I'm talking general public, though.
Yeah,
I'm talking your general sheeple.
I totally think.
Yeah, you think so?
I think so. Yeah, because I mean,
I have no idea what would happen. I suspect, I would hope that would be the case.
Well, of course,
but
I hope that too.
I wouldn't be surprised if people just didn't give a rat's ass.
How could you not care about that though? That's no longer that's not moon travel anymore. That's interplanetary, right?
No, it's moon. No. I'm sorry. I'm talking moon.
Oh, moon
talking
again?
Moon,
Maybe
not Mars. Yeah, no, I'm talking moon. Yeah.
I mean, moon would be big because of the historical precedents, but I think Mars would be big because of interplanetary.
Well, look, I think Mars is there's so many people with so many hands in so many pies that it's never that humans back to the moon will happen before humans back on Mars will happen. I suspect.
Well, I think my general feel on it is some activity is better than no activity, so let's get some activity.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, like, and honestly, if public funds aren't available to do it and private funds are, fine. I don't care. I mean, like, Elon, Richard, everybody else, Bezos, everybody else, like, you got time and money to build rockets. Frigging awesome, because you're hiring engineers, you're doing research, you're lowering costs, right? That's a big thing, right? You talk about innovation and stuff like that. There's the big stuff, which is like, oh, well, we need to develop an ion drive. Okay, maybe that's 30 years away, if ever. That's not necessarily, like, there's always incremental stuff that's just as important, where, maybe it's developing better electronics for a control system that goes onto a rocket, and that lowers the cost because you save 2% on fuel. Like, that could be a big difference. And like, these things all add up. And yeah, man, it's all about activity. It's just like, as long as the politicians aren't sitting on their hands and saying, well, we can't do this, blah, blah, blah. If anyone's spending money on space, it's a good thing. That's my output.
And it's also all about marketing. I reckon, here's my call, I reckon Elon is going to do, I reckon he'll won't be able to pass up the opportunity to do an Apollo 8 style moonshot, i.e. send, humans back there, orbit the moon, and come back.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
That would be a huge publicity coup. Yeah. I reckon, Yeah.
I mean, like,
hey, we're going to test this capsule in space. Hey, we may as well go. We may as well shoot for the moon. And come back. Right.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. I bet that's definitely possible. I mean, have they sent anyone on the Dragon capsule yet? I mean, they've sent cargo, but not people yet, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But then they need the rocket to actually get it to the moon. It takes extra power to. Anyway, in my opinion, if I've never said it before, in my opinion, the most pivotal event in space ever was not Apollo 11, it was Apollo 8.
Huh, interesting. Because of that?
Because Apollo 8, they were the first... Apollo 8 was the first manned Apollo mission, right, after the Apollo 1 fire, right? So, and they decided, well, it was just supposed to be Earth orbit, right? It was just supposed to be, go up in orbit, test a few things, right? And they went, no, screw it. If we're going to fire this bloody big candle, why not go all the way to the moon? And they went, and everyone just went, why can't we do it? And everyone shrugged their shoulders and went, I don't know. And they went, bugger it, let's do it. And so they shot them to the moon, Apollo 8, all this untested shit. And it was the first time we actually left Earth, not just go up and orbit Earth. We actually left, right? So to me, that's the biggest milestone in space.
Yeah.
Exploration.
That's definitely putting your balls on the block, right? I mean, like, that's it's like,
because Apollo 11 is actually. Did you know that Apollo 10 went all the way to the moon? They descended in their lunar module and they got within like 5 k's of the surface and then went back up.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
They almost did it,
right?
Really? They almost landed, right? It was practically the Apollo 11 mission without the one small step for mankind, without actually setting foot. They got within like 50 k's of the surface.
Wow, that's crazy.
It was an entire dress rehearsal. Anyway, for Apollo 11.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's awesome.
That is awesome.
And that's our show. We pissed it away talking about space.
That's not our show yet. Come on.
It is. It's done. No, it's done. I've got to go.
No, come on. Wait.
I got shit to do.
What about Maxim?
Maxim are a pain in the ass.
I wanted to ask you about this. I only wanted to ask you about this because it was
make it snappy.
So you had ranting about blah blah blah. They weren't delivering whatever. But actually, there was another post over on the Reddit ECU thread from a throwaway account from a guy that used to work at Maxim directly.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Basically, he was talking about, so we've talked about before in the show about the the theories and the reasons that, people can't get parts and stuff like that and how things have changed. But basically this guy was a throwaway and he said, yeah, it's exactly what, you and I have talked about on the show before. It's like, it's just their alliance is for the big vendors, right? So it's the Apples and the Samsungs of the world and stuff like that. And basically, all of the resources taken up by these big companies with the big top line dollars. And the difference is, and I think this is interesting for us because, it shows that money talks, right? I mean, like, it's basically when you're in, million part designs, you can, basically all of the money and the focus is going to go towards those high level designs versus, the smaller stuff. And if people are complaining that they can't get parts, it's like, well, show me the money. If you were paying, we were talking earlier about the $2,000 connectors. If it was a $2,000 chip, that'd be different than a $5 chip that gets spec'd online, that kind of thing. So I thought that was really interesting, and we can link all this stuff in, of course, but I thought it was worth bringing up.
Okay.
Anything else we should bring up? Because I'm sure I could bring up one or two others, but...
No. I'm serious. I got to go.
Oh, he's got to go, folks.
Important shit to do.
Oh, come on. What else we got here?
Yep.
NASA, Novena. Oh, Novena's going to KiCad. That's interesting. Circuit Hub's going to Hubstock. These are all just... Oh, he's really got to go. He's got kids showing up at the podcast.
Wow! Look, you want to hop up here? Hop up.
That's adorable.
Hang on,
do I get to talk to Sagan?
Have a special.
Do I get to talk to Sagan?
Yeah, we've got a special guest in the house. Sagan.
Tell me you can talk to a dumb yank. So let's see what else. So Novena's on KiCad. Circuit Hub's got the Hubstock thing. Check all those out.
Say hello to everyone. This is a microphone. Say hello. You want to tell them all about your Play-Doh? No, you've gone shy.
Oh, he can't even see us. Aww. He's gone shy, Dave? Come on.
Look, this is Chris. I'll put your headphones on. You want to listen to Chris?
No. Oh.
No? All right.
Don't worry, my nephew doesn't like me either. That's okay. Yeah.
Sagan, would you like to play with the oscilloscope?
Yes.
Yeah, you like playing with the oscilloscope, don't you?
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah?
That's good.
Is it your favourite? Yes. Which is better, an oscilloscope or a multimeter?
Multimeter.
A multimeter's more fun than an oscilloscope, is it?
Yes. Multimeter.
Why is that?
More things to turn.
Why is that?
Less breakable.
No, there we go. Never work with kids and animals, folks. Oh, God, now he's caught up in the headphone leads.
Oh, no.
This is not good. Anyway, that's the show.
I think we figured out why Dave has to go. Okay, well, Dave, I will talk to you next week, and we'll hopefully have a guest then.
All right. See ya.
All right, man. Talk to you. I mean, sure, that was probably the most contrived amp hour title we've ever seen. I mean, I didn't even use an E in front of either of those first two words, Xtreme and Xtraplanetary. What is this, like a 1990s web TV show? But no, mostly it was all about using that word, Xenonosocomiophobia, which means a fear of foreign pickpockets. Oh, what a great word.